we're going to dive in here. Well, hello, I'm Jim Peacock, and welcome to another Peak Careers interview. December is sort of my theme is always about books, and today we're going to talk to a few other book lovers, and we're going to talk about reading books for professional and personal growth. And so we have popping in from London, actually, was Crystal Debrah-Ekolie, who is a career change coach at, I don't even know how to say that, Vorai Career Coaching. She can correct me later. And Meg Geary, who is actually here from Maine. Mark Danaher got caught up. He's supposed to pop in from Connecticut at some point, and Betsy Sheets is representing the warmth that I so desire in San Diego. So welcome, folks. What we're going to do today is talk about what is one of your favorite professional books that you read in 2020, and then we'll follow that up with why is reading so important to you. So Crystal is, she actually interviewed me. She has a podcast. She interviewed myself and Sabrina Woods in last June, and also is author of a couple of books. I love that. What They Don't Tell You About University and What They Don't Tell You When You Graduate. I like that. Well, that's another conversation. Meg Geary is a career coach and has her own business, academic and career advising, and also is a podcaster. And she's also a facilitating career development instructor, FCD instructor, and she is actually co-instructing with me, and she has her own classes going on, but she's co-instructing with me right now because we have such a large course. Mark Danaher will be joining us. He has markdanaher.com, and he's been working with people high school age to boomers. Betsy Sheets is a career coach and has lots of experience from public, private, and nonprofit sectors in her own private career business. And so what we're going to do today here, we're going to get started today. And I want to start with asking, what is your favorite professional book that you read in 2020? And we're going to start with Crystal and then go to Meg and then Betsy afterwards. So Crystal, what was your favorite book and a little bit about it?
Yeah, so thanks for having me, first of all. My favorite book is called Coaching for Performance, The Principles and Practice of Coaching and Leadership by Sir John Whitmore. So I know this is a really popular book, and it was actually recommended to me by a really experienced colleague because I wanted to just learn more about coaching. I'm always wanting to learn more about my practice. Because my focus was more on information, guidance, and advice. So I wanted to just be able to help a broader range of clients. So it's all about how coaching delivers high performance for people, which I apply for my clients as well. But what I'd say I've learned from this book is it's not just about giving answers. So when you're coaching people, we're not there to give people answers. It's about the coachee being able to go on this learning journey and also recognizing that they're capable and they're resourceful and they're full of potential. And I think sometimes as career coaches, we just want to help so much that we actually forget to take ourselves out of the equation and to just listen. We're sounding boards, we're facilitators, and we raise awareness. So sometimes clients don't see things that we can see because we're really, really listening. And that's really helpful.
That's a great point. I love that point because I used to call myself a career counselor or an advisor, and I always felt like you really need to give the client the self-efficacy, and the coaching relationship does that. So that's great. I'm going to invite Mark in here, and Crystal, let you finish up, but Mark just popped in. So I'm going to. So Crystal, what else? I think I interrupted you, and I think you were going to say a little bit more about the book, or
just a tiny bit more. It leads on from the previous point, really, that it's the responsibility of the coachee to do the work, and that's crucial for high performance. And it's important for our clients to know this from the beginning, that it's up to them. And again, sometimes we take on that burden and think they have to do well. What can I do? But it lies with them. And finally, I'd say that I've really learned about the power of questions. So they should always be open questions and never ask why or how. That's quite interesting because apparently it can come across as you judging people. So I've made sure I've tried to find new ways of asking questions and not be so direct. So
Oh, that's
that's
interesting.
it.
The why or how, right? You do want to be careful about coming
Mm,
across as judging. So that's very interesting. You know, that
that's
is so
everything.
true with people in our profession, though. We want to help, and so we want to just give all this information and just do this and do that, and you know. So, well, listen, I want to keep cruising it, Crystal. That's a great one. And what we'll do is on the website and on the YouTube channel, we'll put links to these books as well. Let's move to Beck. Well, welcome, Mark. We're ignoring you a little bit, but we'll bring you in a few minutes. But Meg, what was your book and why?
Oh, well, thanks again, Jim, for having me as well. And nice to meet all of you. I don't know if you can all see this, but this is my book, Switchers by Dr. Don Graham. And full disclosure, I read it last year, not this year, but it's still one of my all-time favorites. And I think it's the practicality of the book. It just really helps. Well, a lot of the people I work with are switching careers. They're unsatisfied in their current job or looking for career clarity. So this has just really helped me a lot as a practitioner and helping to guide people. She talks about how switchers need a plan A, becoming very targeted to develop a brand value proposition. Basically, how can we help others to solve their challenges, or what problems do we solve? And sort of matching that up with the needs of the company or the role. She talks about, reviewing our career history and discovering our transferable skills and matching them to the needs of the position. And after that, coming up with our unique selling point, as she calls it, how we distinguish ourselves from the people that are competing for the same role. And she also helps to develop a career story. And she just offers some amazing practical tips, like she has tables of charting out your key titles, your key accomplishments, your key expertise and personality and values, and just makes it really easy for the user. And I mean, I could go on, but she's also comes at it from such an area of expertise because she is a clinical psychologist and she hosts a show on careers, Sirius XM called Dr. Dawn on Careers, actually. And she's a former recruiter and she directs the Career Center at the Wharton School of at UPenn. So, and she's had a TED Talk on networking. So she just has this she comes at it from a lot of different angles. And I think her experience and expertise in that area is just really valuable. And I highly recommend it to anybody that is interested. But I do just want to touch on the use of the word advising. Having studied academic advising, that's my master's degree. Advising in that context is interpreted as teaching and guiding and not telling people what to do. So I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, that's good. But words have there's a power in words, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so it really is.
Mm.
There's a lot of power in it, and I wasn't a big fan of the word coaching for actually when I first started my private practice, but I've come to really embrace it now.
Yeah.
So your book, Meg, is it a pretty practical book? I mean, does she have?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I would say it's really practical for anybody changing careers. She sort of helps you, her psychology background really comes in handy for understanding the hiring manager's perspective and what they're really looking for. Like she talks about the only things they really care about are your ability to do the job, your fit for the job, and your motivation. And she also helps us to understand it from their perspective in that they too are nervous and they don't want to annoy their coworkers, like you hired the wrong person, so
Right.
it was really a good insight into that end of things. It's just, yeah, I would say put it as a practical guide, not only for people switching careers, but for us as practitioners. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Betsy.
Yes, Jim, thanks for having me. It's nice to be with everyone today. And Meg, I have that book.
Oh, well,
So a colleague recommended it and I got it. I started it. But as I'd mentioned to Jim on LinkedIn recently, I think Barry Davis, when you interviewed him, he said he always had several books he was reading at once. I'm the same way. And so, but that one is a must for me to get through it soon. So
Awesome.
I'm glad to hear more positive things from you about it. Jim, I had told you I'm going to talk about two books actually, because one led to another one. But back, I think it was January or February, I was on a call with our colleague and past NCDA president, Dr. Rich Feller. And he said, Betsy, I want to recommend this book to you. So he recommended this, which is You're Not Listening and Why It Matters by Kate Murphy. I read the book. The takeaway, what she says, solutions to people's problems are within them. They just need us to listen to them. And I found that so appropriate with, what Crystal said, we need to listen. And as career advisors or coaches, counselors, that's what we do. People come to us with feeling like they don't know, but they tend to always have the answer within. And through our dialogue and tools and activities that we learn when we read books and we go to webinars and classes, that's what helps them move forward. So that is a must for anybody with communication, not just in our industry and our profession, but I think it's helpful for anyone.
Nice.
And then thanks to Jim and Sabrina Woods, and they invited me to attend the CCC Northeast conference this summer. Jim was a keynote. Leanne Hambley from your neck of the woods, Crystal, in London, she was a keynote. And so she presented, and then I purchased her book, Creative Career Coaching, Theory into Practice. And as you can see, all the tabs, I do, that's how I do my books. Jim, I have your book here too, and it's the same way. Because that's how I learn. I read and I tab. I use books as resources. What I like about Leanne's book is that it's based in theory, but there's the neuroscientific research that she does. That is amazing, along with case studies and activities and questions. So the questions go back to what Crystal mentioned of things we don't want to ask, ways we don't want to ask questions. And then how can we reframe questions when we're dealing with a challenging client? That was really a big part of the book. The book is for anyone from newbie level to, seasoned professionals who just want to refresh. And the takeaway for me also was that it's so important when we are building rapport with our clients to be observant, to be curious with them, and to be intuitive. And so that's my big takeaway from that book. I will, as you can see with all my tabs on it, I'll be grabbing it when I need it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you. Mark, thank you. Thanks for joining us, and sorry you had to attend another meeting. I'm sure it was very important, but what's the book guide? What's the book that you want to talk about?
Well, first of all, thanks, Jim, for having me. And I'm so glad to be with everybody here and listening into what you chose. I do a lot of audiobooks. So I have the one thing, I know it's hard to see, because on my commute every day, as I go in and out, I'll listen to books when I go for walks. It's the way that I go through it. And then Betsy, what I'll do is then on those certain books, I will buy and then tab them, or I'll go back through the audio piece and play it again and listen to it a couple of times. And so I chose the one thing by Gerry Keller for the fact of working with a lot of coaching clients and just even myself at times trying to juggle two teenagers and a family and dealing with a number of different things in my life. I was looking at ways to kind of move forward with time management and blocking time. And I think that's what they really talk about in there is really how do you tackle your one big thing first and get that done and block the time for it. And then you can have other things. And it allows you to get that most important thing done so that you can move forward in your life, move forward in your career. And so that has led me now, I actually signed up, he has a workshop that he does. He does a weekend workshop. And so my wife and I are actually going to be doing that to set our goals together and set our time a little bit better between our two careers. But I also want to use that with my clients to help them look at how they're going to approach their own time. Because every time I'll do a meeting, they'll be like, oh, I didn't get to it, or, oh, that came in the way. And, you know, I want to help them kind of put some habits in place based on the learning of the book to help them move forward in their own career. So it's not each week just trying to pull them slowly along. They'll get a better habit developed over the course of that meeting.
It's all time, man. There's so much, you know, we have a limited amount of time. It's how you use it. But if you're jumping from one thing to another, it's like you got 50 half done things. Where if this model, I had a business coach and she said, write 3 things every day. That's the most. So, but I actually do it where I have a number 1. I haven't read the book yet, but I have a number 1 and then I have 2 number 2s, right? And so I know that number 1 is the first thing I'm going to do every single day, you know, so that I can cross it off. And then, you know, there's a huge feeling of relief when you do that too.
Yeah. No, and I do the same thing. I actually developed a whole calendar in my yellow. I have goal 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to do 1. And then I'll get to 2 and 3, and then I have kind of the time blocks down below. So I know exactly what I'm doing along with my morning routine and what I want to cover and what I have for my evening routine so that I can kind of make sure I'm scheduled each day and not skip things.
Yeah. So I'm going to hire Mark to come to my house and organize me. That's what I'm going to do right now. So as soon as COVID's over, you're coming up and
Right.
I'll buy a coffee and then we'll go. So I want to switch gears now. I want to talk a little bit about, and this is sort of, for me, the passion behind this. Well, why is reading books so important to you? And really, how does it help you in your own work? And I'd like this to play around with that. And I think what I'll do this time, we'll start with, we'll go, how about we do Betsy, Meg, Mark, and Crystal? We'll go in that order.
Well, I have spent more time reading during COVID than I have before. I think, you know, because I'm staying at home more, I have more time to do it. But it's also a focus from the distraction. Jim, you had mentioned that in your blog recently too, about, you know, we tend to have monkey mind, monkey brain, whatever you want to call it. And I find when I sit down with a book, I'm there. It's almost like a meditative state, and I'm learning. So reading to me is important for focus. It's important for mental health helping me be focused, and also learning something new. And I think the piece that's important with my business is that I'm always teaching clients about their value proposition. How are they bringing value to an employer? And as a career services provider, I have to be bringing value to my clients. And I can either stay with the same old, or I can learn new techniques. And I just feel it's important in any profession. We need to be in the know. And so that's why I read. No. I'm also in a book club with friends. So I do the pleasure reading too, which is another outlet and a good thing.
Yeah. Meg, what's your thoughts on this? Why is it so important for you and how does it help you?
Yeah, thank you. I totally agree with everything Betsy just said. And it's such a great escape from our current reality. So that it's good for our well-being, I think. And also totally agree that, you know, I engage in 2 forms of reading, but, you know, obviously a big part of it is learning and developing, being able to help the people I work with staying current and on top of things and being able to offer them the best service I can. And, most of the people that come to me or that I work with are so full of emotion. They're very emotionally charged because they've either just been fired or laid off, or they're re-entering the workforce after a long period of time at home, or, they just hate their job and they're switching jobs. So they're looking for, guidance and help, and they're desperate for help, really. So it's really, I feel, a strong, heavy weight to, know as much as I can to help as best I can. And so, yeah, definitely use it to stay current and to learn, grow, develop in our profession, and, honestly, to relax and escape from our, but like Mark, I really enjoy the audio too. I love podcasts and, things of that nature. So.
Yeah. Mark.
Yeah, so I think, like what everyone said, learning is so important. I think, if you're going to be the best you can as a coach, you need to stay on top of things. You need to kind of learn new ideas. You have to see what the latest research is out there, what different people have tried, ways that you can help your clients move forward. But I think also, it gives me a chance to try out some things and think about it and learn about it as I go forward. And that's been the wonderful part is, I try to teach all my clients, you never stop learning. As you're looking to transition from one job to another, you're always learning. If you want to be at the top of your game, if you want to be promoted, if you want to move into certain positions, you have to continuously learn. And whether you do the audio books or, and I read probably 3 or 4 books, off the audio, but I love when the author reads it because I feel like I'm in the mind of that person as they read it. And it just gives you a different perspective on how they emphasize different parts. But it really, for me, it's a great distraction, especially now with everything that's going on. And for my walks, it's just, I can walk 3 or 4 miles and I'll go through a couple of chapters, and it's just, I walk back and I'll start to take some notes of what did I hear? What do I want to implement? And I make little notes along the way. What chapter was that? So I can go back and listen to it or pull it out as it goes through. So it's really essential for me to be the best I can, to make sure as I help people deal with burnout and stress and regain balance and find new careers, it's so important to look at those different avenues and read books to kind of see what's out there.
Yeah. Crystal.
I've unmuted myself now. I agree with what everybody has said. I love to learn in general. It's just my nature. I've been that way since I can remember. So I thoroughly enjoy it. But as Mark said, it's not just reading, it's podcasts, but also I love to learn from others. So I've not been in the career space for that long. So I learn so much from the people around me who are a lot more experienced. And also I think we have to also be an example, because we can't say to our clients, oh, you must make these adjustments and change and grow so that you can be competitive for the next role. But we also have to be that as well. We have to be people that love to learn, want to grow, want to develop, and fill our minds with all this new information. So that's why I think it's important.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the books that I was read was this Small Teaching by Lang, and then the follow-up is Small Online Teaching by Flower Darby. I only have 5 pages left in that one. It's but they're both talking about the one thing that Lang talks about is what differentiates an expert in a field is the ability to make connections from all these different places, right? It's when you're new, like if you're think of yourself as a freshman in college or whatever, you're just sort of taking this one narrow piece of information from that instructor, but that instructor typically that is drawing upon all kinds of stuff. And for me, reading is one of those things that is giving me a different perspective, that I'm taking this perspective from whomever and I'm connecting it to something else that I either know or learned and someone else who wrote something, and I put them together. And that's really where knowledge, that's where you know, we talk about people who have a lot of historical knowledge, and as you get older, you're able to sort of perceive things in different ways. That doesn't come from just being isolated, right? That comes from learning, however you learn. And I'm saying, and I've always just said, is reading is so important. Reading is that thing that gives me that different perspective that I can either then reject and say that didn't really work, or that's interesting, and how does that fit into my world? I particularly like going and reading different books, not just career books, just different books. And because like if I go to the bookstore, back in the old days, I went to the bookstore, and I would just go get a, you know, Inc. magazine, just a business magazine, or go get some other kind of magazine that just was very different. And because there are people who are doing things in different industries that I can learn from, right? And I think that's really where that information can come from. So you can unmute yourselves, and any, you know, other comments here. I mean, there's a lot we can continue to talk about. Other thoughts or comments that people want to offer for here in this discussion?
Well, Jim, I do want to mention, you said you take pieces from, you know, different pieces from books and the learning that you've gained, and you kind of mesh them together. And that's how you teach your classes, because I've taken a few of your classes. So, you know, when you said that, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what he did when he was, you know, taught me that class.
Yeah.
And that's helpful. I think that's a helpful approach.
You know, there's so much. We live in information, as I think it was Mark or a lot of us have said, you know, we live in this world of, it's an information society now. I mean, 100 years ago, there was only so much information. So you didn't have to be always learning. You probably did continue to learn how to shoe a horse better, right? I mean, there really is. There's more to that than just shoeing a horse. You learn any trade, you're going to gather knowledge. But we are in an information world now, and nobody knows everything about any topic. And so you've got to be constantly looking at and reading stuff. And after doing this for 20 some odd years, you know, I go to conferences now, and there's a lot of times I don't go, wow, I just learned, you know, an hour of brand new information, you know, but just about every time I pick up something, right? And that's the same thing with books, is there's just as long as I'm getting some nuggets to challenge my thinking, right? That's really what I'm looking for.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I have one point to make. I just think also when we're reading these books, I love that quite a few of you tab your books. But there's this method that I learned recently where you create mind maps. So I'll have the book there, I've written in it and everything, but then I create my own resource around it so that I can go back to that time and time again. So I do it with finance books, psychology books, business books. I just read everything and gather it all.
So you do a mind map. Is that sort of like taking notes about what's in the book? Is that what you're doing?
Yes, but I color code it and everything. And then sometimes I share it with other people so that they have it too.
I think sometimes you should share it with some other people like me. I would love to see an example of that, because one of the things that I do is every book, I write a little summary about every book, just because it keeps it when I write it down, you know, it's more real. That's all there is to it, you know. I mean, and so I like to write notes, and then a lot of times I saw a book up on my shelf the other day, and I opened it up, and there was like pages of information that I'd written down in it, you know. So I was able to look at the page and kind of go, you know, my page of notes, and go, oh yeah, that's right, there was all that in the book, you know. Well, this has been wonderful. I'm going to we're going to have to end this here, because all my interviews are usually 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and I think we're over that, but that's all right. This has been interesting. I wanted to hear everybody's different perspective, and thank you folks for coming. But I'm Jim Peacock with Peak Careers Consulting. I really started my business by teaching the Facilitating Career Development class in 2001. And actually, I've been teaching online since '02. I've been teaching online. That course, it was a hybrid class for 18 years now. And then I created in 2010 online discussion-based seminars for career practitioners to continue learning about these different topics, many of which were offered in the introduced in the FCD class. Again, back in the old days, I used to do face-to-face workshops, and we'll continue to do them at some point. I do individual career coaching. Last year, I wrote a field guide for career practitioners. And actually, I'm working on my next book, which is not a career book. It's a book about my a year I traveled in New Zealand. It's about 6 months in New Zealand, and had a near-death experience. And that I'm actually just finishing that up, and should be out in the next 2 months, hopefully, the next month to 2 months. I do a weekly career email, and if you'd like to sign up for that, you'll also get the top 10 tips for working with an undecided person. Just go to my website, and I'm on all these social media platforms, but LinkedIn is sort of my place to be. So if you're on LinkedIn, any of these, you feel free to connect with me, but LinkedIn is really my go-to place. So listen, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and books. Really appreciate all four of you folks joining me today on this topic. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Nice to be with you all.
Thank you. Good to meet you.